Apparently now some media Democrats have set a whole lot of have a lot of integrity, which is, after the discussion we had last night, 30 years of besmirchment, smearing, slander of women that because of politics supporting Bill Clinton, it didn't matter what he did. Didn't matter how many women there were. Didn't matter how serious the allegations were. Anyway, Slate magazine said there is no rational reason to doubt the truth of Leeann Tweeden's accusations. No legitimate defense of Franken's actions and no ambiguity here at all. Al Franken should resign from the Senate immediately. Now, we've been telling you these stories and these breaking news from earlier today, and joining us now are the two people that have, in fact, been victimized by Al Franken. We got the pictures right there on the Drudge Report right now. Leeann Tweeden, who is an actress, radio host on KBC in Los Angeles, longtime friend of mine, and another longtime friend, Melanie Morgan, also a radio host in her own right, TV host in her own right, and now running Media Equalizer. Thank you both for being with us, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Leeann, let me start with you. I have known you for many, many years. Yeah. I remember where I was a very long time ago when you showed me that picture. You asked me never to tell anybody, and I did not.
Right.
Let's talk about this USO tour and what happened. Tell us.
Well, in 2006, I was embarking on my 9th USO tour, and that was my 8th one to the Middle East since the 9/11 attacks. And, it was one of those things where, the troops have always been close to my heart. You know that. And my dad served in Vietnam, and my husband is in the Air Force, and he still currently serves. And it was something close to my heart. And, usually as the television host and the radio host, I go and I MC the shows. But usually I go when it's a variety type show. I go with, country music artists, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And so I'm the MC typically because there's other people, they sing and dance. So,
by the way, how many did you go on, Leeann? I know you went on a bunch of them.
16. 14 to the Middle East. Yeah. So this particular trip, Al Franken was on the roster with us. And, so he doesn't really sing or dance either, but he came, and so he ended up being the co-MC. And he had written a couple of skits for himself to do throughout the show. And I'd never met him before. And then he actually came up to me when we met in Washington, D.C. before we went over there, and he said, hey, I've got a script that I wrote. If you want to play along, we can do a skit together at the beginning of the show for the troops. And I said, oh, okay, sounds like fun. Yeah, sure, whatever. He said, all right, when I get to a printer, I'll print it out, and then we can go over the lines or whatever, and we can do it for the shows. So when we get over there, a few days in, before we do our very first show in Kuwait, he said, here's our script, and I saw the script, and it's the typical for the boys. It's kind of full of sexual innuendo and kind of the playing. Okay, I'm doing a live radio hit right now.
No worries. Don't tell whoever it is I said hi. Yeah.
I'm trying to do a live radio show with you, Sean, and I'm sitting here in a chair, and they're asking me to put the phone down for 1 second. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I take your time. We'll go to our friend Melanie here for a minute. Melanie, have you talked about this issue with Al Franken before?
Yes, I have, Sean, and thanks for having me on your program.
Thank you.
I was really surprised to hear Leeann's story today. I was, in fact, doing a live television interview when the host asked me if I had heard about the breaking story involving Leeann at KBC, and I said no, and I didn't know her. But I shared my story immediately, and as I did contemporaneously, I knew Al Franken only because I was invited as a guest on the Bill Maher show. It was August 19th of 2000. I didn't have a lot of experience at the time doing live television, so I was a little bit surprised when Mr. Franken and I started engaging in a discussion over some budget numbers. It was a relatively mundane point that I was trying to make, and he challenged me, and then I came back over the top and challenged him but he wouldn't let it go. He kept arguing with me over a really insignificant little thing. So at that point, the show was over, and I went back to the green room where he followed me. He stalked back into the green room and said, I'm going to prove to you that I'm right and that you're wrong. And this went on, and then he followed me out the door of the green room. And finally, I got in my car and I left. And at that point, I was a little bit ticked off about it, but I let it go. The next day, he calls my house. He got my home phone number from the show producer and started calling me. And this went on for 3 days in a very aggressive, very intimidating, a stalking manner. And finally, I threatened to call the police and make an official police report if he did not leave me alone, which at that point seemed to stop him. But I have to tell you, it was a very frightening experience and one that I hope I never have to repeat.
That is chilling. And Leeann Tweeden is back with us. Leeann, you there?
I'm here. Sorry, they're cutting me in early here. They told me 1:30 is my hit time, and now it's like 1:14.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I understand. So why don't we pick up where you left off? By the way, I know your husband. You do love the military. By the way, and Melanie, I know raises money for the troops every year. I've tried to donate often to her charity, and you went on these 16 USO tours. I know your husband, a wonderful guy. I remember when you had your first baby. How old is the first baby now?
4, and then the second one's 2.
I know, and congratulations on that too. And please tell your other half I said hi.
I will for sure. Thank you.
And just so I know how hard this has been and what a tough day this has been for you. Walk us through from the point where the skit, which is where you left off. You were just supposed to be the MC. He writes a skit, and in the skit, he puts in a kissing scene between you and him.
Yeah, totally. And, in my mind, it's like, okay, we're just going to do this skit on stage. He's going to come in for the kiss, and I'm just going to turn my head, or I'll just put my hand over his mouth, and it'll be part of the scene. It'll be funny, right? We're just going to play it off. And we're backstage where it's literally a few minutes before the first show, and he's like, we need to rehearse the scene because we're alone, right? We're in this little makeshift backstage area. And I'm thinking, no, I just ignore him. I'm like, no, we don't. And then he's like, no, we really need to rehearse the scene. I'm like, Al, it's not SNL. We don't need to rehearse the scene, and he just keeps badgering me. And I'm thinking, this guy is relentless. I'm like, Al, just go to the right. I'll tilt my head to the right, just trying to be funny and make light of it. And it continues, and he goes on and on. And finally, I'm like, just to get him off, me, I'm thinking, okay, fine, we're going to rehearse the kiss, all right? It's like he just was so focused on that one thing. And so finally, I'm just like, okay, let's rehearse the kiss, okay? And I'm just, I'm going to turn my head, whatever. And he comes in, and he just literally puts his hand on the back of my neck. And he comes in, and he just does it so fast, and he just puts his mouth on my mouth, and he sticks his tongue in my mouth. And it happens so fast, Sean, that it's like, when you're not ready for something. And I call him fish lips to this day because his mouth was just wet, and it was so disgusting.
That's so disgusting.
I pushed him off with my hands, and I'm like, if you ever do that to me again, and I was like, my hands were clenched into fists. And I was like, I was ready to punch him. I was so angry. And I just turned around and I walked out of there. And I just was looking for a bathroom because I just wanted to wash my mouth out. And I was just mad. I was so angry.
By the way,
I had to go on stage and act for 5 minutes to go on and pretend like,
I mean, it's just, let me ask you this. And I saw you said.
They're telling me in 1 minute I'm going to have to go on live.
I want to ask quickly about the picture, though. That is so disgusting to me. And I remember when I asked you about it, and you asked me never to say it. I never did because we've been friends for way too long a period of time. What do you think should happen? I know they were trying to pressure you in the press conference. Does something like that warrant? Does he belong in the Senate? And what do you do if there's not a picture? In other words, you have a picture, and then it becomes he said, she said. How do we sort through that, Leeann?
I don't.
Are you there? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like in your case, you look at that picture, everybody's disgusted. And there's so much going on. What do you do if you don't know for sure? What do you advise people?
I'm sorry, they're talking in my other ear, Sean. It's hard for me to hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll just let you answer that last question and you can go, okay?
Yeah, I'm not calling for him to step down. That's not why I came out with this. I just want other people, there might be other girls that he did this to, and obviously you have one on the phone right now that's talking with me, and there might be others. A girl called into my radio station today that I need to return a call that said she had this happen to her from him.
I'll let you go. I know you're being pulled. Listen, Leann.
Sean, I'm going to call you back. We're going to finish this.
You bet.
Because it's important.
All the best to your husband, your family, the kids, for me. Okay, thank you. And Melanie, let me go back to your story. It's she's being pulled in 100 directions here, and I haven't. Look, obviously, it's nothing like what you guys went through, But one day I went down in the green room of the Fox News Channel, and Barry Farber, who is one of the great radio pioneers, and I went to see him. This was in the Hannity and Combs days. And I'm trying to have a conversation with Barry Farber, and Al Franken is in there screaming at me. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to talk to you. I'm here to see my friend. Anyway, finally it gets to the point I can't even have it. And I just said, all right, Barry, good to see you, my friend. God bless you. Give him a hug. And I walked out, and he's screaming at me, following me. And the halls of Fox are filled with security guys. And literally, he would not stop. They called the code, and then security literally surrounded this guy. I've told this story many, many times on air before. It sounds like he was harassing you on that. This man is unhinged. I've known him for a long time. When he's stalking you like this, did you think about going to the police?
I did. I was terrified. I really thought there's something wrong with this man. And I told the story at the time on the Lee Rogers and Melanie Morgan show at KSFO in San Francisco, because I thought the only way to really protect myself is to tell this story out loud, because I was afraid. I was terrified that he was going to come to San Francisco, and I don't know what. His behavior was so erratic and so obsessive that it truly frightened me. And I remember telling you this story as well, and you told me your story about being surrounded and yelled at by him.
I had forgotten all about it until you reminded me. I forgot the whole thing, and I remembered now because it was a long time ago, and look, I don't care. Al Franken's, just to me, he's just a jerk. But when I want you to stay there. When we come out, I want to ask Melanie Morgan a question, because it dovetails into, you tell your story. We've got the picture of Leann. When there's no ambiguity, it's easy. I want to ask you about the hard cases when somebody makes an allegation, or a number of people make allegations, and then the person denies it. We'll get to that. Melanie Morgan. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show, toll free. It's 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. Jay Sekulow at the bottom of the hour. As we've been telling you, Al Franken now accused of sexual molestation on a USO tour of Leeann Tweeden. There is a picture of Leann sleeping. She's been on all these USO tours, and Al Franken there grabbing her breasts. And then she talked about unwanted touching and groping and grabbing and kissing and shoving his tongue down her throat, which is unbelievable. Melanie Morgan had been stalked by Al Franken after a politically incorrect show. I know him from my own experiences, is unhinged. Melanie, what do people to think when we don't have a picture, like in the case of Leann? How do people sort through and get to the truth?
That is a great question, and it's one, and as a journalist of over 30 years experience, I wrestle with every single day. You have to take these instances and these testimonials by different women, and it's usually women, although in Hollywood, as we've learned, sometimes it's men, and you have to look at the whole context in which these allegations are made. I wanted to give Judge Roy Moore the benefit of the doubt, because it was 40 years ago that he was accused of doing some inappropriate appropriate things. I think that the people of Alabama are definitely going to make a judgment on what they think is true and what is not true. I can only speak as to the truth that I experienced, which was a very aggressive and almost obsessive behavior that Senator Al Franken displayed towards me when he was a writer and a performer on Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. So I know my truth, and I think that all the rest of us have to give it our best judgment, read carefully, do our research, and come to our own conclusions.
Melanie,
I'll tell you one thing.
in my interview with him and my demand that he answer questions, was that the right thing to do? Because I feel the people of Alabama deserve to know the truth before they go vote.
100% yes. The answer is yes. You know, at first I wasn't sure what to think about that, but then I realized, Sean, that you were simply doing your job, which is to ask very tough questions, and you did. Some of the answers he gave were a little less clear than other answers, and now he has come back and answered most of those questions that you've asked, and it's up to the people of Alabama now.
Mel, I gotta run. Tell people about your military charity, quick.
Okay, it's called Move America Forward. We send care packages to our troops overseas. MoveAmericaForward.org.
Thanks, Mel.